Standing for the presentation of colors, our national anthem, and the Pledge of Allegiance. Parade the colors.
Welcome to the opening ceremony of Building 92. My name is Roberta Davenport. I grew up in the neighborhood. My father worked in the yard for 28 years. I'm now the principal of Public School 307. I am pleased to present my students who will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please be seated.
People have lived in the communities surrounding the Brooklyn Navy Yard their whole lives and never been behind our walls. That's one of the reasons we're so thrilled to open up our doors, invite the public into this unique exhibition and visitor center. The moment you come through our doors, you're going to see this massive 22,000-pound anchor behind me, the technology and manufacturing of yesterday. Just 10 feet from it, a wind solar street lamp, the technology and manufacturing of today. That's what this exhibit and this yard are all about.
The role of the new building in the yard is absolutely essential and absolutely organic to the revitalization of the yard. This is a way to allow people to understand the history of one of the most important places in America.
This treasure trove of documents and oral histories really celebrates the yard's status as a continuously operating urban industrial park and preserves its unique place in Brooklyn's cultural landscape and American history.
We've used these materials to develop an exhibit that tells for the first time the story of this waterfront site, from its use by Native Americans to its role in the American Revolution, From the ships designed and built here over 165 years to the yard's emergence as the innovative industrial park you see today.
The center gives us the opportunity to celebrate this yard's rich history and its modern rebirth as a national model for industrial urban job creation. It also allows us to promote our remarkable tenants and provide critical job training and placement services to the surrounding communities.
When I think of Building 92, it's a hub. You know, it's a hub because you've got tenants here that have viable businesses that need the skills of people out in the community. You can marry the two right here at Building 92.
This is a resource to the Jewish, African American, Latino communities who live adjacent to this.
My hope for Brooklyn is that the yard remains a place where people, working class folk, like my family, like my parents, have opportunities to find better jobs and to really pursue the American dream.
Hi, my name is Sammy Nassau from the Green Hills School. This is our Brooklyn Navy Yard map, and this is our BNY block building of the Navy Yard.
Hi, this is Max, and this is our people of the BNY wall.
This is Building 92, which me and Nicholas made.
Which is a new museum in the BNY that's being built right now.
It used to be just an old, broken down building, but now it's being fixed to the museum.
Well, thank you, Sammy and Max, and let me also thank Roberta Davenport and all the students from PS 307 for joining us today. We all know that the Brooklyn Navy Yard has a proud past, one that this new Visitors Center, I think, really does a great job of presenting, and I'm glad that these students are here to learn about it and help us celebrate it. It is one of the things that we are leaving to them, and they will leave to their successors. The Navy Yard has a dynamic presence and a bright future, and I wanted to focus on that today as soon as the cement truck gets down the street. The Navy Yard also has a dynamic presence and bright future that makes it the city's flagship industrial park and a true economic success story. And today I'm pleased to announce that more than half a dozen businesses here are making major new commitments to hire local residents for the jobs here. On the eve of Veterans Day, I am proud to say that that will include a new effort to place veterans who are returning from Iraq and Afghanistan in these new jobs. And this expanded jobs program will also focus on job recruiting and training of residents of nearby public housing developments. And this hiring commitment will total more than 300 jobs in the coming year. Good industrial jobs in, for example, digital and offset printing, TV and film production, electronics equipment repairs, and in processing medical lab results. With a grant from the Robin Hood Foundation, the Brooklyn Navy Yard's existing employment center will be significantly enhanced, including a new training component led by Brooklyn Workforce Innovations, a local nonprofit with a strong record of job training and job placement. And they've been the city's partner in training and placing New Yorkers to be assistants in film and TV production at Steiner Studios here at the Navy Yard and throughout the city. Now, the Navy Yard's Job Buildings program is going to be located in this new addition to historic Building 92. It will open, I'm happy to say, before the year's end, and when it does, it will put job training and placement front and center in the Navy Yard complex. And it's a great new location, easily reached by foot, bus, and by shuttle bus from nearby subway stops. And the Visitors Center itself will become, I think, a great jumping-off point by bike, bus, and on foot for the rest of the Navy Yard complex. In fact, as this new visitors center shows, the Navy Yard has always been a major employer in our city during both war and peace, and that was true at the Navy Yard's birth when some of our nation's first fighting ships were outfitted right here. At the height of World War II, 70,000 men and women, including Audrey Lyons, Clarence Irving, and Robert Hammond, who are with us today, worked here around the clock. And early on, our administration made a major commitment, along with the Brooklyn Navy Yard Development Corporation, to expand and upgrade the Navy Yard and increase the number of jobs here. And I think that decision really has paid off, because the city's investment of $200 million to improve streets, sewers, and other basic infrastructure for the Navy Yard has leveraged some $500 million in private investment here. And the result is that the Navy Yard's 4 million square feet of leasable space is, I'm happy to say, 99% occupied, and there's a waiting list of more than 100 companies that want space here. This really is a great success story in doing exactly what this city needs, using its resources to create jobs for the people that built this city and want to live here. To accommodate the demand, the Navy Yard is in the midst of its largest expansion since World War II, and despite the rough seas stirred up by the last national recession, the businesses here have gone full speed ahead in generating new jobs. In fact, some 6,000 people work here today, over 60% more than worked here 10 years ago. And the Navy Yard's ongoing expansion is expected to bring up to 2,000 more jobs here over the next 2 years. All of that is a tribute to the vision and leadership of the board of the Brooklyn Navy Yard Development Corporation, and especially to its president and CEO, Andrew Kimball. The Navy Yard's dynamic, yes, he deserves a round of applause. The Navy Yard's dynamic impact on our economy is a key part of the exhibit at the Visitors Center, and many of the products that the companies make are on display. And that's a very big element in the Navy Yard story, because it not only has a long and rich history, it also plays a major role providing good jobs for New York, as a role that continues to grow. And on that note, I would like to turn the floor over to others who are here, starting with a strong advocate of creating jobs in Brooklyn's waterfront, Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez. Nydia?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What a great day. It's really a wonderful day. The Brooklyn Navy Yard is not only, this industrial park and its past history, but it's about working families. It's about people. And today the message is we are opening the gates. We are opening the doors. We welcome everyone. And it's beautiful to see the principal here and the students, to know about the history, because when we learn about our history, we value what our fathers and grandfathers have done for this great nation. And we renew our commitment to make it better, to reignite the American spirit and the American dream. It is just beautiful. Let me just say, Mr. Mayor, I've been in Congress for 20 years, and I've been working with the Brooklyn Navy Yard. I haven't met such a visionary, a relentless leader like Andrew Kimball. He has been incredible, incredible. And Alan Fishman, Alan, thank you as the chairman of the board of directors for everything that you've done. So this new center at the Brooklyn Navy Yard will introduce visitors to the past, present, and future of the Brooklyn Navy Yard. From 1801 to 1966, the yard was the U.S. Navy's premier shipping building facility. With this visitor center, the yard opens its door to the public to delve into this rich history. The National Endowment for the Arts, for the Humanities, has committed $450,000 to the project. And I will work with you, Andrew, to make sure that they honor that commitment. Through interactive exhibitions and education program, led by Brooklyn Historical Society, visitors will learn the significant role the yard has played in American history. And not only that, visitors will also learn what is going on today behind the fences. It will also house a job training and placement facility, so important because so many of our people, of our community, are unemployed, and we need to retrain so that we prepare them for the new jobs that will become available. And this is why New York City is doing so well, Mr. Mayor, thanks to you, to your leadership. When you look at the unemployment rate around the nation, 9.1, and you compare to New York City, 8.6, something is working here. And it's how we embrace our history and how we embrace the richness of the diversity of New York City. Also on display is the leadership role that the yard is playing in advancing green manufacturing and the creation of 21st century jobs. This represents an opening of the Navy Yard to benefit the community. This is a great day, and I thank you all for the great work you're doing and you continue to do. Thank you.
Nydia, thank you, and thank you for all the help you give us, not just in this project, but on lots of projects. The New York City Council has provided major funding for this visitors center, and I thought it would be more than appropriate for the great speaker of the City Council, Christine Quinn, to comment on today's announcement. She'll be talking for an hour and a half, something like that. So, all kidding aside, nothing would have been done without the City Council led by Chris. It really is making a difference.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I also want to recognize two of my colleagues who are with us who were enormous leaders in getting the funding for this in the budget, Councilmember Steve Levin and Councilmember Diana Reyna. So thank you both for being here. And before I speak for an hour or an hour and a half, I just want to say a couple of thank yous again to the mayor and to Deputy Mayor Bob Steele and to our Cultural Affairs Commissioner, Kate Levin. This was really a tremendous team effort at all levels of government, and our terrific Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez. We could not have done this without you, so thank you so much. And I also want to thank State Senator Dan Squadron, who is with us as well, for his support on this effort. I want to give a big thank you to Alan Fishman, who is I mean this is a total compliment, a dog with a bone when it comes to the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Anywhere you see him, it is Brooklyn Navy Yard all of the time. And he is only outdone in that efforts by Andrew Kimball, who really, as Nydia said, I think this Navy Yard would not be what it is today if it wasn't for Andrew. Every position he's ever had, if you look back, he transforms the things he's charged to lead. So thank you so much, Andrew, for what you've done here. And I want to just take one moment to recognize a member of my staff, our first Deputy Director of the Finance Division, Jeff Rodas, who is out there somewhere, who has watched over the Brooklyn Navy Yard a little bit like a godfather, if you will. But most importantly today, I want to thank all of the veterans and active men and women of our service who are with us today. At its peak during World War II, where my father was an engineer third class on the USS Gatlin, this Navy Yard employed 70,000 people, 24 hours a day, every day of the week. It was a military base for 165 years. And today, it's the first time in 210 years that the public will be allowed on the grounds of the Navy Yard. The opening of Building 92, that does deserve a round of applause. The opening of Building 92, which we need to get a better name for, but Building 92 is a great opportunity for the community and for our neighborhoods. It finally makes this wonderful city asset that has such an incredible and interesting history open to the public and creates an opportunity to educate New Yorkers and visitors on the role that the Brooklyn Navy Yard has and will play in continuing to sustain our economic growth, and also for people to understand the important role Brooklyn has played in the military history of our United States, which I think is underappreciated. As I said, under the leadership of President Andrew Kimball, the Brooklyn Navy Yard has transitioned from its days as a naval shipping facility to what we see here today, an anchor for continued economic development in North Brooklyn and a model for urban industrial parks that house some of the city's most cutting-edge companies. But Andrew and Alan have done that without leaving one bit of the Navy Yard's history behind. They've woven it seamlessly into the economic development and the modern reality of the Navy Yard, and that is not easy, and they've done it beautifully. And we in the council have just been so proud to partner with the Bloomberg administration, with the state, with the federal government, and of course with our great Brooklyn Borough President, Marty Markowitz, who's represented by his Chief of Staff, Carlo, here today. And thank you for being here, Carlo. The council, and all of that was really a funding partnership. The council has funded nearly 50% of this project, allocating a total of almost $13 million to this project and over $2 million from Steve and Diana and the Brooklyn delegation. Now, particularly exciting today is that through the tailored workforce and placement assistance that the Navy Yard has, companies can get access to the right people, and beginning today, the Employment Center is going to help with a particular focus on housing authority residents and veterans, an additional 300 New Yorkers to get jobs and go to work this year. So what more can you have? Open to the public, a museum that captures the past, the present, and the future, veterans that we get to honor, and 300 more New Yorkers working here in our neighborhoods. This is more than a great day for Brooklyn, so thank you all.
Now, we got money from the city. We also got money from the state. The New York State Senate has provided funds for the Visitor Center, and we are joined by the state senator who represents this district, Dan Squadron. Dan?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your leadership here, and Deputy Mayor Steels, and your focus on jobs in all 5 boroughs. I am reluctant to join the chorus giving Alan Fishman and Andrew Kimball credit because they operate like 2 guys who have to prove something, and I fear that if we say too much nice about them, they won't feel like they have anything to prove. I want you to know you still have a lot to prove to me. You've done a great, great job. But keep that chip on your shoulder, please, because we need it. We really do. And, of course, to Speaker Quinn and Borough President Markowitz, Carlo representing him, my colleagues Steve Levin, Diana Reyna, and, of course, Nydia Velasquez, who is always such a leader throughout my district and throughout the city. It is a great day, and there is enough to stand up here for an hour and a half and talk about how great it is. I won't do that. But I do want to just say that right now, and I think we all know this, outside on this side of the gate, times are tough. Folks are having trouble finding jobs, keeping jobs. Companies are having trouble creating jobs. And on this side of the gate, an extraordinary thing is happening. Jobs are being sustained, created, and that's something that we need to make use of. The history of the Navy Yard is being a great source of this nation's strength, both overseas and also of this city's economy. And it is really fitting to open the gates to the Navy Yard today, because today the Navy Yard continues to be a great engine of the city's economy, but it also points us in a direction for the nation's future strength. At a moment when we are struggling to figure out what the economy is going to look like for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, a place where jobs are being created and sustained, a place where we are doing manufacturing inside a city, inside this nation, is something that we should open the doors to. We should do it because the community needs to be allowed in and needs to be part of this, but we should also do it more broadly, because all of us in this city and probably in this country should look at what's happening in the Navy Yard. We should bottle it up, and we need to spread it around, because this is what we need to be doing to get the city and the country back on track. I'm so glad we are, and I'm so proud to be here today. Thank you very much.
Daniel, thank you. And as Dan said, or Chris said, representing the great borough president of Brooklyn, Carlos Cesura. Carlos, you want to say that?
Good morning, everyone. Actually, I had a whole speech written about how great Alan and Andrew were, so that'll cut about an hour of my speech out of here, Mr. Mayor. But you do have to say just one thing about Alan and Andrew. I can tell you that we've learned one thing, Well, Alan Fishman calls and Andrew Kimball calls. Marty just says, how much? There's no discussion anymore. So really, these guys deserve a round of applause. They have really reinventing. Let's give it to them. They have reinvented what it means to manufacture in New York City, what it means to be community partners, what it means to have people on board that you may not think would understand what manufacturing is. They've done it. Of course, it's a banner day in the borough of Brooklyn when the mayor is here. Mayor, thank you, and the administration and all the staff that's here for all they do, and our great speaker, Christine Quinn. I have to say that the partnership that Marty has with the mayor and the speaker, we like to call it the Brooklyn Triumvirate, of course. It has resulted in amazing results borough-wide. I mean, you can talk about downtown Brooklyn, Coney Island, the waterfront, everything. But I think this project really sums it up. Jobs, 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 community, community, community. And that's what these three people are all about, so thank you. And then, of course, when you add, as Marty says, Madam Chair, who I know you'll be seeing Marty in a few hours in Puerto Rico at the Somos conference. Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez talked about things like this before it was cool to talk about things like this. So Congresswoman, thank you for all that you do. Senator Squadron, of course our council members, Steve Levin, Diana Reyna. This is really all about what Brooklyn is about. You talk a lot about what you're hearing, and Brooklyn is cool and hip, and restaurants are opening, and everybody wants to live here. And as the mayor knows, GQ calls Brooklyn the coolest city in the world. But it's cool, absolutely. Brooklyn is cool because people are working in Brooklyn. And it's cool because places like this are opening up to the community. And it's cool because the people that live here, I know I see some tenant presidents from the housing places here. My friend here, good to see you. That's why Brooklyn is cool, because it's the place to be. It's the place where history, today and tomorrow come together. It's a place where kids can finally come in here, enjoy the Navy Yard, see what it's about, learn what it's about. It's a place where green jobs are being built. It's a place where Steiner Studios is in a few years going to have the largest movie studio in the world outside of, as Marty calls, La La Land. And we know that a few years after that, Brooklyn is going to be the home to the largest studio. So, Alan, Andrew, you guys deserve all the credit. There's a lot of community people here. You guys deserve the credit for knowing that when times were tough in Brooklyn, you stayed, you made it happen, and you put Brooklyn on the right course. So, if I may, Marty does a lot of things. He gives a lot of money. He provided a lot of funding for this organization, but he also proclaims days in Brooklyn, and I know the mayor loves that. So, on behalf of our great borough president, Andrew, I'll present this to you. Let me, of course, proclaim today the Brooklyn Navy Yard Center, Building 92, grand opening celebration day in the Republic and the coolest place in the world, Brooklyn, USA. Thank you.
Carlos, no matter how much Marty wants Brooklyn to be a separate city, it ain't going to happen. Or as he would say, forget about it. Bob Steele and his staff, this is just one of the many economic development things that we're doing throughout the city to make sure that this city has a future, and I'd like him to say a few words. Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here and to be with Speaker Quinn, Congresswoman Velázquez, Senator Squadron, Council Members Levin and Reyna, and all the rest to tell you what a great day it is. You know, I think we've spent a few minutes recognizing the great work of Alan and Andrew, but let's go a little further, too, and also thank all of their board. The board of the Brooklyn Navy Yard has done a fantastic job. Certainly the leadership of Alan and Andrew is terrific, but their whole board has made a great contribution, and they deserve recognition and appreciation also. You know, in the 10-plus years of the Bloomberg administration, this really stands out as one of the great icons of success. Today, when you look at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, you see a 99% occupancy rate, 6,000 jobs have been created, and the roster of impressive and growing and thriving businesses that now call the Navy Yard their home. It surely is an economic success story any way you look at it. When you visit these thriving businesses, there is a real energy that permeates the Navy Yard, a sense of creativity, craftsmanship, and entrepreneurship, all that are incredibly encouraging, as several people have said, in a time that really is pretty tough in lots of other places. So we have something special here. The success of the Brooklyn Navy Yard is proof that there is a bright future for modern manufacturing here in New York City. In addition to the success of the businesses inside the Navy Yard, now the Navy Yard has become an important driver in the community generally. We talk a lot in the administration about making neighborhoods that are places where people live, work, and play. We know people live here, we know we work here, and now they're going to come here to visit too, which is an important part of the driver of the economy. So having this as the visitor center and the museum is just an important element in what we're trying to drive. So by opening its doors to the community for the first time in more than 200 years and committing to hire an additional 300 local residents, the Navy Yard is making that local commitment to be an even better neighbor. Soon, at the site of Admiral's Row, the Navy Yard will also bring a new supermarket to the neighborhood, which has long been in need of such a place. From the earliest days of the 1800s, the Navy Yard has been an anchor, yes, pun intended, in the community, and we're sure it'll continue to be so in the future. Congratulations again to all of the Navy Yard team, led so ably by Alan and Andrew, and it's a great day. Thank you very much.
Bob, thank you. And now, pleasure to introduce the chair of its board of directors and one of Brooklyn's great civic leaders, Alan Fishman.
Well, good morning, everybody. One of the things that Andrew, who is basically a fine executive and a control freak, couldn't control was the weather. So I want to give Andrew you've absolutely done it. Good. As I said, welcome to the Navy Yard. We're thrilled to have you all here. Even if this museum, opening this fantastic museum and jobs center, were the only project at the Navy Yard, it would be an indeed very impressive accomplishment. But incredibly, and I want everybody to understand this, this yard and all of the work involved is only 3% of the effort and the money and resources and projects that are going on yard-wide now. It's one of many projects. In fact, Steiner Studios are in construction, as you know, to double its size. The great Baldev Dugal, a friend of the yard, a great tenant, is putting the final touches on a new manufacturing facility as we speak. And back there, as you walk out, maybe take a look, there's a hulk of a building, huge mess of a building, and by the spring we'll have that underway and will be a home for great clean tech jobs. And more major announcements are come all the time, and obviously Admiral's Row, we're getting closer and closer, and Councilman tells me today that they're voting it out of ULIP next week. You know the story, post-World War II, there was 70 years of neglect. And when I say neglect, it was neglect up until the beginning of the Bloomberg administration. And now we're investing money in a sensible way. The capital monies that the city's put in, the $200 million or more, has paved the way for private funding and all kinds of funding of the tune of over $500 million. The council, the board president, the state, all of them have stepped up as well. And importantly, we've added businesses, we've kept a full shop, and we've added jobs throughout this recession. And through the supervision and the careful support and the staff work that we've done, we've gone from being sort of a hodgepodge of municipal sort of places that nobody knew about, and certainly the one that no responsible banker or financier would support. We now have a highly coveted, financially viable industrial community providing a safe haven for manufacturers and pushing the envelope in all kinds of ways. And as the Speaker, Council Speaker Quinn rightly focused the attention on beginning to knit together this site, the Dumbo and the downtown, into creating real job centers, integrated job centers. So this yard is not just a model for urban industrial creation, and also, I think, a private-public partnership and also community engagement. I want to recognize the board that we've worked with here. and the staff of the Yard. They've done just a remarkable job at leading this expansion. But most especially, Andrew and I want to recognize the incredible support, really wise guidance and professionalism of our various New York City government colleagues. We've worked with 3 great deputy mayors, a wise, very wise Office of Management and Budget, Department of Small Business Services, now the Department of Cultural Affairs, partners at numerous other city agencies, all of which have played in a really significant role in our process. This day and this progress didn't just happen by accident, and I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for all the help you've given us. So anyway, Building 92 is core to our mission. Here we celebrate our history, the modern rebirth, our tenants. In addition, we'll provide the job training that we've all talked about. So all of you, we want to thank. This building stands as a legacy to the commitment of all of you to the Yard, those that have come before us, and we want to thank you all. And with that, let me introduce the president of the Yard, a terrific colleague of mine. We have a wonderful relationship. I can't say enough about him. He's already gotten too much praise, and I just want to introduce Andrew Kimball.
Okay, thank you for your patience. I promise we're almost there. And I want to thank everybody for their very, very generous words. As my wife and kids can attest, it's not always quite so perfect. But I want to thank them for supporting me these last 6 years as we've worked on this project and reviewed into the wee hours of the night exhibition text. And thank you, Alan. As chair of so many Brooklyn organizations, you have really driven change across the borough. Deputy Mayor Steele, I can't imagine a more business-savvy and supportive Deputy Mayor in City Hall, so thank you very, very much. And let me add my thanks to the Mayor, the Speaker, the City Council, the Borough President, State Senator Squadron, U.S. Representative Velasquez, always there for us, Levin, James, and Reyna, and the City Council, fantastic supporters and advocates for manufacturing jobs and supporting our vision not only here but across the Yard and projects. Mr. Mayor, you might be in one of the few places in America, certainly the only industrial park, where jobs have increased by 60% right through the recession. And that stands really as a testament to your efforts. And for the people who have those jobs, their families, in the community that surround us, that says a whole lot about your leadership and your ability to create change. So thank you. While growth over the last 10 years has been extraordinary, I also want to recognize the staff and board members, many of whom are here today, who literally kept the Navy Yard's doors open, put out fires every day in the 80s and 90s when there was no public investment, and put in place a very sophisticated leasing strategy that we continue to build on today. A lot of them are here, and I want to thank them. Like all projects at the Yard, this is a public-private partnership, and we have tremendous private funders. As the mayor noted, the Robin Hood Foundation has stepped up on job training. J.P. Morgan Chase Foundation is helping us provide additional summer internships for college students. Con Edison, National Grid, and Rockefeller Brothers are facilitating our efforts to highlight sustainability initiatives and green jobs. Barclays Nets Alliance and National Grid Foundation will help us provide educational programs to schools across the city. And the Brooklyn Community Foundation, our first private funder, thank you, Marilyn, along with TD Bank, the New York City Regional Center, Peter J. Sharp Foundation, and Sovereign Bank will help us market our programs and develop a sustainable membership for operations. Thank you all very, very much for your support. We saw how important the Yard is to the future, to my kids, the kids who are on the stage at the beginning of the program. We're now going to honor the past. As you will see when you visit 92, our team has undertaken a remarkable effort to find the men and women who made history here during World War II and record their stories in their own words. This was a time when 70,000 people came through our gates every day, when patriotism, productivity, and innovation flourished. It was also a time of dramatic social change.
The first day I walked into the Navy Yard, I was walking into a nightmare of sounds, noise, and smells. As we were working out on this long, inclined surface out there on the river, and the cold wind blowing in, so it was very, very cold. And we wore very warm clothes, layers of clothing. And in the summer, it was very hot. They gave us salt pills in the summertime because we were sweating. This was not a pleasant experience. I didn't even know what the whole thing would look like when it was over. I was just working on a little part of this big steel ship.
In 1944, they told me to report to the New York Naval Shipyard, and I was assigned to a machine shop in 31 shop. And the best opportunity at that time for African Americans was to try and work for the federal government. And if you were lucky enough to live in New York or Philadelphia, then you went for the Navy Yard. The relationship that everybody had, and the respect that everybody had for each other in general was, it couldn't have been better. And the reason I say that is because, well, it was a war. And everybody wanted to win this war.
December 1943, I joined the Navy, and we went to the Navy Corps School. When Corps School was over, I was sent with 8 other men to the Brooklyn Naval Hospital. We were met by a chief petty officer. Oh, we got some new stewards mates here. But we weren't stewards mates, we were corpsmen. And he put us to work in the kitchen, washing dishes and serving food, stuff like that, cleaning floors. And this officer, this white officer came in, he was a lieutenant commander, and he said, "You're corpsman, aren't you?" He said, "Yes, sir." So he got the chief petty officer, and he asked, he says, "What are these men doing down here?" And then he said, "Well, sir, you can't send them up there with the white nurses." And that officer told him, "You get those men up on the wards now. And if I come back down here and see one of them in this commissary, I'm going to bust you all the way down to a seaman, 2nd class."
They had a training period of about 6 weeks, it was, where they taught those of us who chose welding how to weld. We felt it was an accomplishment, but after a while, it was a job. You had a leather jacket and leather pants. You had to wear high shoes with steel tips because you could drop something on your toes. But we worked a 58-hour week. 10 hours on weekdays and 8 hours on Saturday. After a year or so, we began to ask for equal pay for equal work. There was a union, and eventually we got that $1.14 an hour, which the men had been getting. I earned more money than my father.
Ladies and gentlemen, please acknowledge the American heroes, both enlisted and civilian, with us today, whose oral histories are in our collections. They include Robert Hammond, Clarence Irving, Audrey Lyons, Alfred Culkin, Beatrice Mobley, Rabina Ross, Henry Tadowitz, Carmela Zuza, Wesley Fagan, Frank Trezza, all here with us today. Thank you so much. This project has formed unique and lasting partnerships for the Yard with an advisory committee including acclaimed scholars from across the country, with community leaders and sustainability experts, and with the Brooklyn Historical Society, whose incomparable leader, Deborah Schwartz, and terrific staff have been our technical advisors from the start and will continue as our partners, delivering school programs. 6,000 school children will come through these doors in the first year alone. Innovation in manufacturing is thriving in New York City. It looks very different than 20 or 30 years ago. Manufacturing today is typically small scale, often green, driven by our city's exploding creative class, and supporting sectors that everybody agrees are growing: entertainment and media, arts and culture, medical services, food services, high-end design, home goods, recycled and renewable energy. Once seeing this exhibit, the public will know these are not just words from another overly optimistic economic development professional. I want to thank our inspired architects at Beyer Blinder Bell and Workshop APD, our wonderfully creative exhibition designer, Robin Parkinson, and Plaza Construction for their superb construction management. We take great pride in the fact that 20% of the construction went to local contractors, including 20 Navy Yard tenants. And in fact, the modern structure that you're about to enter was built in a factory inside the Brooklyn Navy Yard by a green modular company. And 40% of the construction work went to minority and women-owned contractors. While so many of our staff worked so hard over the last 6 years on this project, one staff member, Daniela Romano, deserves special note. That's right. Daniela's infectious enthusiasm, tremendous work ethic, passion for the yard, and ability to form partnerships helped drive this project from the start. Her ability to secure extraordinary artifacts for this exhibit, often for free, was nothing short of amazing. Not least of them, the 22,000-pound anchor you'll see that was on a scrap heap in Texas that Daniela found and had brought up here. Daniela, congratulations and thank you. A few weeks ago, a member of our maintenance team, R.C. Howard, who grew up and still lives in the neighborhood, came to me and Daniela and said she'd been so inspired by this project, she'd written down a few words. To conclude our program, ladies and gentlemen, R.C. Howard.
Hello, everybody. My name is R.C. Howard, and this is the Brooklyn Navy Yard. The Brooklyn Navy Yard, what you see before you today, has come a long way from the 335 acres of farmland purchased from the Dutch, later to be named Wallabout Bay. She has taken her place in the American Revolution where the British prison ships moored her bay, holding captive American soldiers, merchants, and traders, claiming as many as 11,000 lives and taking their souls away. But we honor them today. Because although their body was in prison, we expand on their vision that everything that is done in this yard is nothing less than greatness. We strive for the best, nothing short of amazing. And we continue to be at the head of the race and lead in innovation. The diversity of the Brooklyn Navy Yard is simply breathtaking. It spans from carpentry to food processing to metal fabrication, from art to movies to aerospace. And we continue to take great strides on efforts of saving the earth with green manufacturing and technology because we understand that green works. So yes, we have come a long way from that piece of land purchased by John Jackson in 1781 where the foundation was mere marshland but the original shipyard was done. And the American government purchased land from John Jackson in 1801. It was that very year that we was founded and our journey begun. A journey so extraordinary, so profound, so great. So you should possess a sense of pride as you enter the gate. Whether from Clinton, Clymer, Washington, or Sands, understand that amazing contribution to this country happened right here on this land. From the very foundation, the soil that lies beneath your feet was homeland to the Navy returning from sea. Out patrolling the water for many days and many nights to ensure that our tomorrow brought a better quality of life. So come, join me in her history. Let her mystery unfold. As the water washes up on the bay, let her story be told of the launch and construction of extraordinary ships, of the closing of the yard and the struggles to reinvent. But we raised our flag high and today we still exist because we held true to that vision. The same vision that was manifested in scientist E.R. Squibb, whom we owe much thanks to for his contribution to modern medicine with his invention of anesthetics. See? This vision is embedded in the soil, it's invested in the land. It's the foundation for which we build on, it's the grounds on which we stand. It's the moral of our story, it's who we strive to be. Brooklyn Navy Yard, more than just an industrial park. We welcome you to see.